we'll be building some pretty cool vibe coded apps together. The theme is the same. We're going to build it with Angular, but we're going to vibe code it. So, I was just looking at some of the things that we could build, and I was thinking, what's better than building something that actually helps us get a few updates, right? So, I am still brainstorming, but let me start sharing my screen, and then we can look at it together. So let's see. I was looking at some Angular projects that we can build using Angular, and I want it to be around geopolitics because I want to keep a track of the geopolitics. I'm horrible at GK. I'm horrible at keeping up with a lot of events. So I was like, okay, so this is what Cloud Code gave me as a few things that we can build. So let's see what else. What all do I like? I like this interactive sections tracker. Sounds fun. I like this world news aggregator because we can also use like public API. So that's something I'm actually very interested in exploring. And then we have the country relations visualizers, which is going to be fun because it keeps changing. So then we'll have to figure out what API to use. So I think I like this world news aggregator for starters. And then the other one I really like is a scrollable timeline of geopolitical events. So I like these two ideas. So I am going to go ahead and search for APIs for these two. I especially like the conflict timeline where you can see by date what's happening. I don't know what public APIs are available for this. And the only last option that we can do is scrape data. One of my favorite ways to do it is using the Cloud plugin for public websites like like Twitter or other news channels. But at the same time, I will have to then check the compliances, whether or not I'm allowed to scrape data from them. So let's start with asking Claude to give us a plan for the World News Aggregator, right? So tell me detailed plans including public APIs that I can use for the following projects. Also do a quick comparison between the two projects, just so we're clear about the pros and cons going forward or the journey that we'll be taking with this app. So also do a quick comparison on the two. Okay, and then this is the project that I want. So one is this, and then the second one that I really like and I would rather build today is the conflict timeline. I think that's a very cool thing, and that's something I can also verify, right? So it's telling me public history API, which I don't know if it's actually like available. So let's see what it tells us. And yeah, if you all have any ideas about what we should build, we can also look at that. So it's telling us that the world news aggregating is going to be like a live updating dashboard that pulls geopolitical news, filters by region, topic, and displays results as rich cards, which is great. But I don't know, I'm not very excited about the first project. And then these are the Angular concepts that we'll be paying attention to. Great. So I also asked it for like an average of 40-minute build because we're doing it live and we want it to complete in all fairness. We're not building it, we'll vibe code it. And then it's also giving a comparison between mostly historical, unless this, which we'll have to check what it is. Then we have API complexity. This, I like the fact that there is low API complexity. So we can use all of these recommended data sources. I like this. I like this. What was the APIs for the first one? I am thinking we can use all of these APIs. I like the fact that all of these have a freemium. Basically, we can have like a bunch of requests per day or per month, and I really like that. Uh, all of these require registration. They said this is completely free, which again I love. Okay, they're saying curated static JSON, which I don't like because I don't want a curated static JSON. Wikipedia REST API, lovely. I like the Wikipedia REST API. And then there's the Accolade API, free for researchers requires registration. Okay, cool. So from what I'm gathering, these APIs are more tricky to get, but we'll see. We'll explore together in just a minute. Alright, so I think I'm just gonna make them both into linear tickets and then we can slowly start looking up the APIs. So I already have, so I'm on the Claude Cowork. I already have my linear connected. So all I'm gonna ask is I'm gonna ask it to make two projects in my personal workspace and just make tickets around it. So, and I'm gonna ask it to do a very detailed, thorough tickets, including API calls and all of that, right? So make very thorough tickets for both the projects in linear in Ritvi's workspace, also in my team, in Ritvi's team and workspace. uh Make them separate projects. Sorry y'all, my keyboard's being weird. Projects, and limit it to 5 tickets per project. I like that. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create repos, GitHub repos for both of them. Yes, this session is streamed on YouTube as well. So I can't see, so for some reason it's showing me LinkedIn user and not actually who's replying to the stream. So yes, you can also watch it on YouTube. So if you just go to Santosh's YouTube, let me see if I can pull a link up for you. Give me 1 second. YouTube. Let's see. Okay, folks, I'm having a little trouble finding the right YouTube channel, so I'm gonna take another second. Anyway, it is making us the things. I'm gonna, there we go. Found it, y'all. I'm gonna send y'all the link in just a second. And found it. And here you go. So the problem is I can't actually post on LinkedIn, so you won't be able to see this apart from the fact if I open LinkedIn, which I can't right away. So this is the channel. If you search for Santosh Yadav Angular Tech Talks, you should be able to see the channel that we're streaming live on. So you see it has picked up context with linear and it's trying to figure out what to do. So it does a really good job at creating linear tickets. So let me quickly get my linear up. Okay, if y'all see my screen, I don't know where my screen went. There we go. This is my screen. And I'm gonna make this bigger. And let's search for linear. There we go. And let's search for my workspace. So let's go to projects and let's see if it has created. So you can see it has created 2 new projects and it's also creating tickets, as I'm pretty sure. So I'm going to open this in a different tab and open this here. So let's see if it's created issues yet. So if we go to issues, we'll see it actively creating issues. It's already created 5 issues and I asked it to limit the whole thing to 5 issues. So let's go here. Lovely. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go and create some repos for it. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new repo. I don't know if my screen's being shared. Yeah, it is being shared. Lovely. So I'm going to go ahead, choose an owner. So I'm going to choose me. Lovely. And I am going to go ahead and put the repo. So I'm going to call the first one so I'm going to call it geopolitics timeline. Geopolitics geopolitics timeline. And this is going to be my one repo. So I'm going to go ahead and create the repo. And then I'm going to go ahead and create another repo. But before that, I'm also going to keep adding it to my CodeRabbit because I absolutely love it when CodeRabbit does the planning. So while CodeRabbit will do our planning, I will also go ahead and then check out the APIs. So let's go ahead, sign in. So Vipul has just messaged me about how he would love to see Santosh write Angular real time, and Vipul, that's what we usually do. But Santosh is currently in KubeCon in Amsterdam, so he is not taking the streams. And until then, y'all are stuck with me vibe coding. Unfortunately. But hey, we're going to make the most of it. We're going to have fun. We're going to discover some new APIs and see how it goes. So while this is ready, I'm going to go ahead, create another repo. So let's go ahead and open a new one. Let's go here and let's go ahead and create a new repo. So new. And I'm going to go ahead and create the other one, which is just world news segregator, right? So let's just call this world news. And for some reason, I'm not excited at all about the world news. I think it's going to be a fun project to make, but I, for some reason, don't find it, I can't appreciate it enough. So if y'all think that's a good idea, please let me know, right? So now I'm going to go ahead and install. I'm just going to refresh this one because I just created this repo and I'm going to add CodeRabbit to both the repos. And I usually put it on select repos. That way I know I'm very actively going ahead and selecting the repositories. So let's see, world news. Do we have it? Not yet. There we go. Found it. And then I'm going to also add the geopolitical one. So let's see. Perfect. And I'm going to save that. So now that my linear tickets are ready and I know for a fact that it can plan it, I'm going to go ahead and copy the repo because that's what it asks me to do. One, I'm going to ask CodeRabbit to plan. So I'm going to go in my first ticket and oh, it already created the coding plan. That's awesome. I love it. I am so happy the fact that it already created the coding plan. I'm actually surprised here because I was about to come here and tell CodeRabbit to plan it. That's because I already have auto planning on all my linear tickets and all my linear projects. So that's awesome. So let's go ahead and review the coding plan that it's created for us. I think we should start by creating the world news one. It feels easier. But let's see how that goes. So let's review the coding plan. Okay, so it's told me that it has two phases. It's asking us to start with the scaffolded Angular project, which is a good idea. Then it's first configuring the HTTP client. It's not creating the front end first, which is awesome. And then it is adding a agents.md for building tools. Interesting. So why it's doing that is because we'll be using these commands a lot later. So it's first building out logically the agent's MD. So it's easier for our agent to use it. Next, we have interface. So basically where, if you all were in the stream yesterday, we spoke about interfaces. That is where our front end and back end kind of communicate. And that is where we kind of standardize that, hey, front end is expecting this data, back end is expecting to give this data, and it's standardized. Lovely. And then it's creating the new service core, which is probably where it's going to get all the information. Interesting. What I am concerned about and why I don't want to actively start implementing this is because it doesn't know the APIs I'm using yet. So I don't know where it's getting the data from. So the reason it's using anime.js is because I'm a huge fan of anime.js. And if you all haven't checked it out, I highly recommend that you do. So anime.js, I can talk about it so much. Oh my God. So y'all can see that I go to the website a lot, but I need to show this to y'all. This is amazing. This is so beautiful. So this is anime.js, y'all, and I'm going to scroll. And do you see how beautiful this is? Isn't this incredibly cool? And I've been trying to work with AnimeJS for so long. If y'all saw my linear, my own personal website is on my linear tickets. I'm building it very slowly, but this is something that I want to do on mine. But I'm still figuring out the design. Isn't this insane? I love it. I love it. I love using this, and yeah, hopefully you'll see us collaborate with them sooner or later because I love talking about it. I'm just gonna post a link to them in the chat in case y'all want to check it out. This is anime.js, the one that I was just showing. So I love the idea of being able to use anime.js. I haven't had a great experience in agents using it, even though I once sat down and built an entire skill for it. And I tested the skills also. So the skill was written well. I even went ahead and tested it against a skill written by Codex versus Claude, and they both did a similar job. It wasn't very different, which is a good thing. So yeah, it's trying to use anime.js because it knows I love putting anime.js everywhere. So it's trying to use anime.js. And okay, so before I implement it, I am going to go ahead and check my next tickets of how it's planned it, if it's already started planning it. So you see it's adding the news grid component in the third. Now remember that the tickets were actually generated by Claude. So the logic Claude is using is possible that CodeRabbit does not understand. But we'll see. It has not planned this issue, neither has it planned. Oh, it planned this issue. This is the first one, isn't it? 2 minutes ago. Yeah, this is the first ticket that it planned. And this is what we're looking at. I think it's still working on this. So I will quickly go and check. I'm going to open the third ticket also and see if it is working on it. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back, and if I open my sidebar and go to plan and go to my plans, I can see all the plans that are in process of being planned. I'm gonna get sick of saying the word plan. Sorry folks, a lot of plugins I keep trying to use. So it says incompletable, which is very interesting. I am very curious to see. It's completed a bunch of different ones that it's saying. It's telling me incompletable. Why so? Let's see. Mm, so I'm just gonna go ahead and ask it to plan it anyway. So add code rabbit. Mm-mm, not working. All right, let's see if CodeRabbit tells me why it couldn't plan this. It's usually going to ask me to tell it the repo that I want to plan it on. So I'm going to go ahead and keep the repo ready. So let's go ahead and copy and see if it plans it. Where did I throw that? Where did I ask it to plan? Is this it? Yep, this is where it is. For some reason, it's not responding. Oh, sorry, folks. My bad. It's CodeRabbit AI. Oh, bad mistake. So let's go ahead and do that. AI. Let's give it a second. If not, we'll go check why it's saying not compatible because it's very interesting. So, plan, plans. I'm wondering which ones are left. So it did not do one ticket here, but it's completed a lot of the others, which I don't see. So this is the one that it's done. Great. Huh. Love it when things don't work on live stream. Interesting. Okay. It couldn't plan the second ticket, the third ticket. the fourth ticket, and the fifth ticket. Cool. I think that's because it got overloaded or I'm rate limited, which is what I think has happened. In which case, let's see all the tickets that it did complete. So I'm going to go ahead and look at all the ticket numbers that I have here. So 46, 49, 48, 47, 50. Okay, this is very weird. So it's created it in a different order, very weird order. So I'm going to go ahead here in my plans and check what it did complete. So it has completed 46. It completed 49, which is not part, which is part of this. So it's completed 49. So let's go ahead and open 49. Yay. Lovely. 49 is complete. Let's see 48. All right, let's not let this stop us. We will go ahead and start building out our first feature. So I'm gonna close the million tickets that I've opened here. Cancel. Okay, it replied here. Amazing. So it's gonna try to plan it now, which is amazing. I love that because it's also detected the repositories that I added, which is awesome. So I'm gonna let it plan the 48. So we have 48 being planned, 46 has been planned, 49 has been planned, 47 it hasn't replied yet. That's probably because I edited the code rabbit AI later. So I'm just gonna leave it again and see if it is able to do it. AI plan. There we go. So I think because I edited this later, it couldn't detect it, which is perfectly fine. So it's going to plan it out. So let's start with our world news aggregator. And I'm again going to go ahead and close a million things that I have open here for the time being. We might need GitHub again later when we're cloning our, or rather when we are pushing our code. So I'm going to go ahead, close all of that. It's still going to continue planning. Don't worry. If you get that message, doesn't mean your plan's going to stop. All right, great. So I'm going to open VS Code very quickly. I'm going to create a new window. Get the window here. Going to check if my code rabbit has the correct agent configured. So I'm going to go here. Yes, I want to use Cloud Code, which is awesome. I'm going to go ahead, open folder, create a new folder called World News. That's it. World News sounds good. I'm going to go ahead, create it, and open it. Amazing. Love that. And now the final thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to hand it off. So I'm going to go ahead in my code rabbit. I'm going to review the coding plan because this is the first ticket. Bootstrap Angular project and implement new service. And we're going to go ahead and do the agent handoff. So I'm going to open it in VS Code. And all I have to do is now click it. And it's going to open Visual Code. And there we go. It has opened my plan, and now I can choose to implement it either one by one or all together. Because the paranoid person that I am, as you all know, I'm going to implement it one by one. So let's start with all of this. They also have this implementation prompt that you can copy in case you don't want to do it a direct handoff. But I've made sure that it's going to select my correct coding agent. So I'm going to go ahead and do select or implement coding phase. It's going to ask me Claude, it's already triggered Claude, and it's asking me if I trust this folder. I do. And it started. So it's been given this prompt. It's been handed over the whole prompt. And now it's going to start writing my code, which is awesome. So now it's asking me if I want to run these commands, which I do. And then I'm going to go ahead and ask, do this. I love what they have done. Wait, what is this question? Mm, All right, so I'm gonna say yes only this time because I know for a fact that one of the things we're gonna do right now is write the agent empty, which is gonna give it the functions to run the CLI commands. I'm not going to approve it just yet. But I love what Claude Code has done with the whole moseying, spelunking, thinking thing. It's very cute, and it's a nice way to keep focused. Otherwise, there's a high chance that I just start running the cloud and I walk out and I completely forget that I have a project running, right? Okay, what is it asking me now? Yes, I would like to scaffold a new standalone project app. Now, ideally, you can also give all the instructions and let it run on its own, but we are going to check every instruction and see what it's asking us to do. So it's telling me how many tokens I've used, and we can always go here and check if it started creating files, which it has. It first created a .clot, lovely, and then it's created the news app. It has already created, so it's basically now running the Angular scaffolding. So it's basically creating the new app using the Angular CLI, and it's created a bunch of really cool stuff, including the whole source folder, which is what this looks like. If you realize, or if you notice, this looks exactly like our hotel management project, which is the basic of it. So now it is making some changes. So it's asking if it can edit the app.js. So I'm going to go ahead and let it edit every file in this session. So it's going to go ahead and create a bunch of files now. Ideally, what I usually do is I let it walk me through every file that it's creating so I can do like a quick check. A lot of good things for y'all to do if y'all are doing a vibe coding session, especially if y'all haven't done it before, is just verify a couple of things. So this is something we do, especially when we use agent coding agents. Is, oh, did it pick up the right the environment variable name? A lot of times it does hallucinate that. Making sure that, oh, is the front end in the right folder, is the back end being put in the right folder? It has gotten much better in the last few months, though, I mean, obviously, but it is always nice to have a few checkpoints for yourself to make sure that, oh, everything's in the right place. All right, great. It's written a bunch of things, including it's written our dot get ignored, which is of course extremely important. And lovely. So it's saying it's done because it's saying sauteed for 2 minutes, 7 seconds, which is amazing. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to CodeRabbit and I'm going to ask it to implement the phase 2. So I'm going to uncheck phase 1, go ahead and implement phase 2. All right, it's asking me if it can read the file, and I'm going to ask it to read the file throughout the session. This is basically it asking me to let the Claude Code CLI read the Code Rabbit prompt. And yes, I do want it to be able to read the Code Rabbit prompt throughout our session. So let's see. The temp file has already been deleted, so all I have to do is implement this again, and it should be fine. Doodling, it's doodling. That's amazing. Great. So now, until it writes code, we'll come back and check in less than a minute. I'm going to start looking at some of the APIs that it recommended, right? So first, let's go and check if our other plans have been implemented. So our next plan is going to be this in the feature list that we're implementing. So let's go ahead and check. And it has created a coding plan. So ooh, so see, this is something that's interesting because I've not pushed any code to the repo. That is why it said incompletable earlier, because it did not detect any code in the repository. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead, and once I'm done implementing phase 1, I'm gonna push the code again. So I'm gonna now push the code, which means I'm gonna go to my GitHub. Okay, I'm gonna go here. And then I know it's my repository is called World News. So I'm just going to go ahead and go to World News. Lovely. I have it being prompted here. And I'm going to set it up in my Git. So let's push the first code. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to follow the existing repository one. So wrong. Yeah, my keyboard and mouse don't seem to be in sync with me today. So copied. Let's go back to our VS Code. It has done making all of this thing, which is awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and do a git or I'm just going to actually copy paste it. So I'm just going to paste this git remote add. What this is basically doing is it's adding the whole repository as the remote repository that I'll be pushing it to. So it's telling that, hey, we're already tracking Git. So if you notice at some point we had Git there, and okay, what's it asking? And yes, I do want to do that. Lovely. So it has already, it's now added all of this, and it's basically what it's telling me is it can handle everything else, but I don't want to do it. So it's telling me that my default branch right now is master, because you remember GitHub basically went in the middle and said that, hey, we're going to make our main repository a branch main and not master. That was an interesting change. So GitHub knows that hey, this is something that your Git will probably tell you. So we're going to go ahead and set the branch we're pushing to as main. Let's go ahead, do that. Hi Panyupal, welcome back to the stream. Yeah, you have no clue. I'm missing Santosh so much. Santosh is so good at explaining concepts. I hate the fact that I can't walk you all through the exact concepts, but we'll let Santosh do that once he comes back. All right, let's go ahead and do it. So the reason why it's asking me for these permissions is because I'm not using the actual terminal and I'm going through Claude. So technically Claude is then giving this command back to the system, is why it's telling me that, hey, can I give this command to the system? Should the system allow me to do this? And yes, now if I were to do another way is I can split my terminal and just use a normal terminal to do the git commands, which I usually do, because that way I know exactly what's happening. And now we can just go ahead and push. So I'm going to copy this command, but there are a couple of things we need to do before we do that. So I'll copy this, but before that, we actually need to stage and commit all our files. So I'm going to go ahead and do, so for the sake of our sanity, let's go ahead and create a new terminal. Okay. Lovely. We have a normal. So I'm going to do git add dot. Ooh, fun. Error, our usual stream error. Let's see what it's saying. It's basically saying it doesn't detect the git branch. So I'm gonna do the command again and see if it recognizes. I'm gonna go ahead and check through the git graph here. So it has everything here, which is concerning. So I can go ahead and commit it from here, but I do want to detect the issue here. So I'm gonna do a quick ls. So you see what happened? It's basically created an application inside the folder. So I'm not actually in the folder in the terminal where my Git repo has been initialized. So I'm going to go ahead and just go there. Let's do an ls. Let's see if we're in the correct app. We are now. And now my command should work. So when I do a git add dot now, it should be able to, there we go, it worked. And now I'm going to go ahead and commit it. So I'm going to call this phase 1, ticket 1, phase 1, ticket 1, or actually the other way down. So ticket 1, phase 1. So ticket 1, phase 1, implemented. And I'm going to go ahead and commit this. And lovely, it's committed. Now I can, the command that I copied earlier, this one from my GitHub UI, I'm going to go ahead and push it. And once I do that, CodeRabbit will start detecting and you see the graph cleared from here, basically detected the commit command. So it's saying, okay, nothing more to stage or commit. Let's go ahead and look at our repo very quickly. So I'm going to quickly refresh this and see if we're all on the same page. We are, which is awesome. So let us go ahead back to our second ticket. So this is our second ticket. We had our first ticket and we're on 49, which is the second ticket. What I am wondering though is maybe this is not in the order that you would want. So I'm going to go ahead and ask CodeRabbit to plan this again very quickly, because I think this is the correct order. So the ticket numbers for some reason aren't in the correct order in the linear itself, but I feel in the order which they've been created is the correct order. So I'm going to go ahead and comment this and let it plan again, because now in the repository, it's going to detect our entire code base. So let's see how that goes. This is fun. This is actually not going to be that easy because even though we have our basic application ready, connecting the APIs and exploring the APIs will take a minute. So maybe we can do a special additional supplementary stream tomorrow. Love it when apps are so secure. It's like, nope, you weren't active for a little bit. I'm going to sign you out. Love that. That's very sweet. Okay, so I don't know if did I not spell it right? Possibly. I do make a lot of spelling mistakes, y'all. But fun. Let's see what Coach Rabbit has implemented. So ideally, this should be our first one, but I want to ask it to plan again. So let's see if it detects it here. Code Rabbit AI plan. There we go. Interesting. I could be rate limited, y'all, because I did spin up like at least 10 plans right now. So let's see how we're doing here. Okay, this is taking a minute to load. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna close this because I don't think we can implement this project today. The world news it is. And it's signing me in. So I think it's a sign-in issue for the most part. All good though, all good though. Okay, folks, let's hope this works. Nope, something went wrong. Okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna close all my Code Rabbit apps. We're gonna leave this open. I'm gonna move it at the front because this is something we don't want to move. And it did detect this. Sorry, y'all. It took a minute, but it did detect this. So let's go ahead and open this again. Hopefully, it opens today. And if not, we're gonna do a very developer thing that we're supposed to be doing. So I'm gonna go ahead and close any code wrapper. Nothing is open. Lovely. I'm gonna go ahead, open my developer tools. Opening my developer tools. And then I'm going to do a very classic thing. If y'all don't know how this works, basically, once you open developer tools, you can go ahead, right click on the refresh button, and just empty cache and hard reload. This usually resets a bunch of things and makes a lot of things easy. So you can see there was a lot of things that is being deleted in terms of the things. So I'm going to go ahead, click on this again. There we go. Very classic developer technique that almost always works. So let's go ahead and close this and go back to our plans. So I'm going to go ahead and again move this up because I want one open all the time. And I'm going to go back and check this. So I like this. I like the new plan that it's probably generated. So it's done this. Let's look at the coding plan. Taking a minute. I'm going to close anything else that's open because it can be distracting. And let's see. I like this. I like this. Yep, lovely. So I am just checking again. It's always a good idea to just check what's your agent planning to do or what it was thinking of doing. And you can say that it's telling me that this is version 2. And it's again done a couple of phases, which I love. So it's doing a very logical thing where it's starting with first having adding the backend models, and then according to the backend interface, it's going to generate the front end guard, which is a very very good and logical thing to do. So I'm again going to just click on agent handoff. I'm going to go ahead, select VS Code, and there we go. Let it open Visual Studio Code. Love it. And there we go. Amazing. Awesome. So we're going to do the same thing. Click on the first phase. Let's go back to our cloud code because this is the command line it's again going to use. So let's go ahead and implement the phase one again. And again, if you want to see what it's doing, again, cloud code is first going to tell you what it's doing, but it is doing two major things. It is adding an article model interface, which is again a very good logical thing to do, to add like an interface between uh, your front end, because it's very hard. Well, I won't say it's very hard now that you're using AI, but it is little unnecessary to first generate a random component and then go look at what data you're getting and then change accordingly, which by the way is still going to happen. We're going to have a lot of trouble once we get to the actual connection of the API part, because we haven't really explored the API yet or what data we're going to get. Ideally, the classic way to do is that we would go look up the APIs, right? So what was one of the APIs that Claude suggested? Let's quickly go have a look. What was the APIs that we were suggested? So you see, this is the actual order in which the tickets were supposed to be handled, and we did a good thing. We had instinct, which is why you should not trust AI blindly. Lovely. So it was asking us to use where are the APIs? So this is the one. What were the APIs? This is project 2. I'm on project 1. Okay, so first API is news data IO. So let's go ahead and look up news data IO. So the classic way would be to first sign up for, of course, the API. So free news API, always concerning. Nothing's free, all. Always remember that. If something's being given for free, it's a high chance. Okay, so I'm going to sign up using email OTP. Let's go ahead and enter my email. Shouldn't be showing this on screen. Don't like that. But all good. I trust y'all. I love my audience and I trust y'all a lot, which is why I end up showing a lot of times. Okay. So, did it send an OTP? Okay. Sign up here is what we wanted to click, y'all. Never mind. Ooh, personal information. All right, folks, I'm going to quickly remove this from the screen. Quickly sign up. And then we can continue. So I'm going to go ahead, sign up. There we go. All right. Give it a second. It's signing up. Okay. Almost done, y'all. Yay, we're signed in. Lovely. So I can bring this back on the screen for y'all. Final questions. Let's see. What's it asking me? I just want this. And it's asking for my number. I do not feel like telling my number on screen. So I'm going to quickly enter my number. And get started. Lovely. We're in, y'all. We're in. All right. Let's bring this back on screen. So, what I've said a million times at this point, I think, and I'm actually going to show you, is how to test an API. Now, ideally, you should use something like Postman or Hopscotch. I am going to, for the time being, open Hopscotch because I know I always spell this wrong. So there we go. Hopscotch is an open source API system, so you can come here and test APIs. The idea, why do you want to do this? The reason why you want to do this is you want to first verify what this API is giving you. Now, ideally, you're going to be architecting the whole thing. You're going to be architecting your backend and your front end so you know what data you're getting. However, if you're connecting to a third-party service like this, you want to understand what data you're going to get. And to do that, of course, there's going to be dev docs, but you can always verify using this. So let's see. It's telling me I can just copy this. Love that. Oh, they also have a query runner. So I can basically run it in the browser and check, which is just so cool. Let's do a pretty print. Love it. So this is the news that is being sent when I run that specific thing. Now, if I were to just show you how to use this is basically an API tester or basically an API runner. So I put the API here. Nope, not the correct way, y'all. So ideally, you have the headers. You're going to do the API key and add this. So let's go ahead. this X E, and we're gonna put this. Okay, and let's go ahead and do this. I want to remove this, and I just want this. So let's remove this. So the idea behind this is that if you want to test multiple, different requests without going back and forth, you can do it. So I'm gonna go ahead and send this and see if this runs. Nope, API key is missing. Huh. Well, obviously don't remember how to run this, but cool. So this is what you want the final request to go in your thing. The idea is this is called a header, and I do want this header added, but for some reason it is not adding the header. So what I can do is I can go here and check what it sent. Mm, let's see if this makes sense. Nope. Hmm. This was the API key. I'm going to remove it from header and add it as a parameter, query parameter, which is what it was doing with the question mark. So I'm going to add it as a parameter, and there's no underscore. I want to make sure it's exactly how it was before and see if this works. Nope. All right, we'll fix this later. But the point is, we can see what the data we're getting. And the idea is, if you're using something like hopscotch, you can actually play around with what you're getting. Mm, And I've just realized I have my API key exposed on stream, which is a bad idea, by the way. Never do that. I will be replacing mine after this. But yeah, cool. So this is our API key, and this is what we're going to be using. So I'm going to go ahead and give this API key and the request to my agent and tell it that, hey, this is the data that we'll be getting. So it's done running phase one. I'm going to say this is the API endpoint we will be hitting for the news. So it's going to save it, it's going to test it, it's going to know the data that we're going to be getting, and I'm going to go ahead and implement the other second part once I know that it knows what data to expect. Because remember, we actually haven't told what APIs we're using to either the linear ticket or the plan. So the planning agent does not really know how to go about it. There we go. So it's basically now making a bunch of different changes. It was first using newsapi.org. Let's see if that's actually a thing. It is a thing. So we could use this also. We'll also add this later. I am so confused about this. Oh, I remember. I remember why it's not working now, y'all. Stupid mistake. We'll work with this later. I'll actually create a collection that y'all can also handle later. But yeah, fun. I know what the mistake was. But we're good. We'll implement the correct thing next time. All right, let's go back to our Cloud code, check if it's done changing the files. It has. Let's go ahead and implement the second part. And we should be able to see the basic, at least the front end part, in just a second. So once it's done, so the reason why I made sure that we were hitting the correct API and I gave it with the API key so it knows what data to expect and the length of the data to expect. And once it does that, it can create the front end component accordingly. So let's go ahead and see what it creates, because apparently it also knows that I want to use AnimeJS at some point. So let's see if it does some cool animation. If it doesn't, though, we can always ask it to. So we'll do that. Let's see how this goes. Yes, please. Mm. Error. So what it's basically trying to do is it's trying to run it and check if it starts. If it starts, it'll tell us what port to go to. If not, it's going to keep debugging. Now, I do know that I have a bunch of different test applications running on different ports, so that could be causing the error. Let's see. So what it's telling me is there are multiple stale processes running, and it's asking me to clear and run it again, and I want to do that. Yes, it's going to clean up a bunch of anything that's running and serve the whole app again, which is awesome. Marinating, love that. Oh, now another thing that I've noticed, y'all, especially when I'm vibe coding, is a lot of times the build folder does fail miserably. So like everything will be working really well in dev, and it'll fail in the dev build folder. So one of the things that I do that I definitely know I'm going to deploy. When I know I'm going to deploy is that I keep building the build folder after every phase, right? So let me go ahead and click here. Wow, it has not deployed our entire component at all, which is not good. So, mm, okay, this is not cool. So, let's see if it has just a different route that we're not accessing. So, I'm just gonna go ahead in my folder in the app. Look for so the shared folder that we discussed yesterday is basically anything that's being shared between your front end and your back end. This is the service that is fetching the news, and this is supposed to be the article interface. Now, interesting. So let's go ahead and ask it, right? What's the news card component endpoint? Yes, but how do I access it? I love this. Yes, so this is, do you see what it's telling us? So it's telling us that, hey, I did build a component and I did build a backend, but I never really set up the routing for it, which is not great. So it is now going to build a routing for us, and hopefully, when then I load my homepage, it should get us to the news component. So it is sublimating now. I love it. I love what they've done with this. Love it. It's making some changes. And now what it's doing, if you notice, it's also changing a bunch of the data that we're getting because it's realizing that it never mapped it to the new news API that we got. Ooh, it deleted a bunch of code. Interesting. Yay, application bundle completed. Let's see. Okay, there we go. This is not bad. It at least has something loading. And let's see. Okay. Let's see if opening it again changes anything. But basically, it's at least loading our component, front end component. Now, for it to generate anything, I'm going to have to fix the backend, which means I have to implement the API that we just tested. It does now know what to expect as the correct data, but it does not know what data to actually display because we're not actually giving it any endpoint to hit during the application. But folks, this is a good start. I think Santosh is not going to be there next week either because he's going to be in SF. So if y'all are in SF, y'all should definitely hit him up and say hi. Because we're almost out of time today, I am going to stop showing the screen and we will continue building this. I think it's a very cool project. And then I think we'll also, what I want to do is after we're done vibe coding, we'll also look into every file and see what's happening. And then once Santosh comes back, he can give us a bunch of, he can rate the app about as an Angular developer, if it's a good app, where Cloud Code did well, where it could do better, and have fun. But yeah, thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for sticking around. We'll be building some pretty cool apps together, especially when I run the streams. If you all have any suggestions on what we should build, please let me know. I'll be more than happy to do it on stream. Or if you want to join the stream and run something together,